My name's Isaac Holden. My story is going to begin back in summer of 2013, late July. My father at the time was fooling with his stomach. He was having stomach issues. His coloring was getting bad and he was losing a lot of weight and he was just really not himself. And he was on it for, like I said, a couple weeks or so, and anyway, he come to the church and we had a Gerald Crab meeting here. And I seen my father walk into the church and he was wearing a sweater. And I was wondering, why is he wearing a sweater when it's 100 degrees outside, 90 degrees outside? I was kind of iffy about it. And I remember my uncle Peter looked at me and said, "Your father's coloring don't look that good. He should go get a blood count." Anyway, went to his doctor, and his doctor checked the blood and told him, "Go on, I'll call you in a couple hours with the results." Anyway, doctor called him with the results and said, "You need to go admit yourself into the hospital immediately. You're walking around with hardly no blood. You need to get some blood transfusions and stop the medicine you're taking." So anyway, I was out to work when my grandmother called me. I just figured, that he was just got his blood took and they were just going to send him home and tell him to stop taking the medicine. I didn't know what was going on. And my grandmother said, "How's your father, son?" I said, "He's fine." I said, just checked his blood. She said, "No, Isaac, your dad's in the hospital." So anyway, I was out working with a few of the guys, and anyway, Tommy Johnston come and got me and took me from work up to my father in the hospital. Talking with him, he looks good, they're giving him blood transfusions. And anyway, I got talking to a doctor, and I said, my uncle said, "Ask for this certain doctor in the hospital, it's my blood doctor." So I asked for that certain blood doctor. He wasn't on call that evening. Woman doctor that come in and talked to me said, "Your father was only walking around with a couple of pints or so of blood in him. By all means, he should have been in the hospital days ago, and if he would have walked around any more or went home probably tonight with this low amount of blood, he probably would have died in his sleep." And right there is a miracle in itself that he was able to make it to the hospital. Saturday rolls around, and anyway, it comes up to the hospital, and I'm sitting talking to my dad. And anyway, the doctor come in, the head blood doctor. Anyway, this blood doctor come in and looked and said, "Your white blood count ain't coming up. It keeps dropping, and by now I expected it to come up. And because we're such a small hospital, we can't keep you anymore. So we're probably going to have to ship you down to Johns Hopkins, the main hospital downtown." But he said, "I really don't want to do that because," he said, "they're going to torture you because you're such a rare case of what's going on. They're going to torment you. They're going to do more tests on you because they're going to want to investigate what this is." I was talking with Danny's father, and I said they might have to tap him for a bone marrow. Sunday rolls around, and my dad calls me early that morning. Said my blood went back down again. The white count's down low again. They're probably doctors coming in a couple hours, so of course I panicked and I rushed and got cleaned up. And as I'm getting showered, I'm starting to question everything now. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Me and my wife just had our daughter, not even 6 weeks old, brought home, healthy, beautiful baby. I was like, why is this happening now? Why is this happening? My baby's just born. My father's happening to my father out of nowhere. Gasologist comes in, his doctor that put him on this medicine, come in, and out of nowhere, he said the same thing my cousin said about the 7 days, and that they've been taking the blood too soon. They needed to wait 7 days for the medicine to leave before they start checking the blood the way they've been checking it. And I said, well, there you go. I said, Paul, I'm thinking to myself, I said, wow, it's an answered prayer, And the doctor said, I don't think your father's going to leave this hospital. I think your father's going to be all right. That's why I think they're checking it too soon. Let's give it till tomorrow and see what happens. My dad comes out and he looked at my mom and said, "I ain't gone yet." My mom was upset, and my dad looked and said, "I'm not gone yet. I don't think I'm leaving. I think I'm going to be fine. I think this is all going to come around tomorrow." Anyway, that night, or that afternoon, Tissy come up and said a prayer with him. And she also looked and said and told my mother, I think Isaac's going to get good news. Isaac's not leaving this hospital. So there was 3 people. Then Lizzie Rose come up, prayed with him that night, told my mother the same thing. I think he's going to get wonderful news. I don't think he's leaving here. I think he's going to go home from here. That's 4 people. Anyway, laying in that, go home. I goes home that night with my family, and anyway, gets up the next morning. It's a phone call from my father at 5:45 in the morning. And anyway, the doctor's coming and checked his blood, and anyway, the woman come running down the hallway screaming and said, your blood's good today. Your blood went up 1 point. All the doctor wanted was just it to go level or go up just a point, just to show that something was working. And right there was a miracle in itself, that the blood come up 1 point out of nowhere. For what was going to be bad turned for good. And from there on out, they started giving him vitamin C pills and vitamin C's and vitamins and vitamin shots to speed up the bone marrow. And then within a couple of days, the bone marrow, everything, all the blood went through the roof. And I can't stop thinking about what kind of miracle it was, because I watched my father lay in that hospital, and I thought they were going to torment him. I thought he was going to get teased, and I thought it was just going to be a lot worse than it was. To watch him go from that rock bottom, a week later, the next Sunday, walk out of that hospital. And be fortunate enough to be able to get out of that hospital and then go back to his regular life and be back to himself within a couple of weeks. Appreciate you, and I love everybody that come up and prayed with him, from pastors to family members to relatives to friends that would call me and text me, to friends that would call my mother and sister and call all of us and text us, and never was done praying for us at that point in time. We received a miracle right there. By all means, the woman looked and said that my father shouldn't have walked into the hospital that night. He walked in on his own power. He should have been either wheeled in or he should have been dead, by all means. My father is living proof of a miracle. God won't give you something that you can't handle. And for anybody that's going through situations, has got problems, got people struggling with family members with cancer, blood, sicknesses, anything, God can take the worstest case and turn it around and make it look 100% better. And I promise you that if you trust in Him, God will take care of you like He took care of my dad and took care of my family.